up for us, this idea of, Fnatic are so versatile, so flexible, this 2019-esque G2, now the 2020 Fnatic version. They can pick where and when they beat you. So Fnatic have all of the options. Do they blitz towards the top lane and do what I think is probably the correct option, which is really pull apart the difference between Bwipo and Orome, or do they actually skill check bot lane? I expect that this is probably going to be the fasting Senna if Fnatic can get their hands on it, and then bot lane's just going to become rock, paper, scissors, who has what matchup, when does the matchup have priority, and neutralize itself. But there is always that possibility that Vedius and Yamato were teeing up, that you could try to skill check Carzzy and Kaiser, and if you do shut them down, then you prove to Mad Lions that, hey, your big shining crowning jewel on your roster, it doesn't matter because you're against the best in the business in Reckless and Hilly.
I mean, if you do that in Game 1, a series can very, very quickly fall apart. But we are now into picks and bans. Fnatic, of course, on the blue side. Mad Lions on the red for Game 1. It is the Kalista taken away from Carzzy. Not a flex pick. I think it's safe to assume in the hands of Mad Lions, but limited anyway. The Set, the Gragas, and the Pantheon are going to follow up. I like that Mad are taking some of these junglers away from self-mid.
Yeah, but the one pick that has scraped through the ban so far is going to be that Senna. So will Mad Lions ban it from red side as their last ban, or will they give it away to Fnatic, which I'm sure would be the priority pick, trade it for the Aphelios and say, this is fine, we're going to take the free lane phase because it is usually a slower pushing lane, and make sure that Carzzy can scale up into the team fights right where we like him.
They are definitely debating on this final ban. Maybe, though, they have something special prepared. Obviously, everyone got to witness the fasting Senna last week. So Mad Lions, if there was a counter pick to be discovered, they've had ample time to do it. So they're banning the KêNH away instead, one half of the fasting Senna duo. But there are so many supports, so many champions that we've seen paired with the Senna that it makes me feel like they want Fnatic to lock it in for us.
I would agree with that. It is also meaning that they could look for the kill-oriented bot lane, since you are taking away one of the most defensive champions, using that Devour to reposition Reckless. So I agree. It's trying Fnatic to see if they will look for that fasting Senna. They're not going to get the traditional KêNH, but you know that they can run it with the Zillion, with the Maokai, with anything in between the Trundle. There's the Aphelios trade and the Ornn trade we were talking about. So Mad Lions, probably on second rotation, feeling really confident to say, this is fine. Like, we got probably two of the best scaling picks that are currently sitting in the meta right now. You can have the Senna.
I'm curious to see how this fits into the strategy that we heard talked about by Kaiser, playing their own game, playing aggressive, going for these fights, because both these champions, while they can fight, they can absolutely skirmish. Aphelios can do a lot. Normally, picks that I consider to be scaling. But Fnatic, so far they've got the Senna, and now additionally Hylissang's Thresh. So Fnatic are set up to go for some aggressive plays, potentially to have Hylissang start roaming, and that is always what I want to see when Hylissang is on the Rift, is champions that can roam around the map, that can make an impact somewhere outside of just bottom lane.
And this is one of the adaptations that I would have liked to see Mad Lion kind of snap on, is that they didn't necessarily have to snap grab Aphelios. They could have tried to reach for the Thresh themselves, because that's kind of the other side to banning away the top KêNH, is that you can grab a Thresh for Kaiser and you can try to play the kill-oriented bot lane. Now that said, you still have access to things like Nautilus if you wanted to, and try to play a kill-oriented bot lane, have more CC down there, so you're not completely punished for losing the Thresh, but you didn't have to reveal the Aphelios so early since Senna was already there.
And I think it's concerning to me because I think Aphelios is one of those champions that can absolutely solo carry a game if given enough space and time. But Tahm Kench and Braum are the two champions that I always look at to give him that space, to give him that time, to give him that safety. And with Tahm Kench banned away by Mad Lions themselves, I'm not as excited about this Aphelios, especially into a Thresh where one hook can spell death, where, we can get the Shurima Shuffle coming out from Nemesis as well. But Froster, the other thing I want to talk about is, we said, kind of explosive. These are two teams that are going to be looking to fight, but I see a ton of scaling on both sides.
Yeah, it's the fact that we already have our late game insurance policies with the likes of the Azir and the Aphelios. Senna as well, her scaling with the soul stacking, and I think a lot of people kind of underestimate the damage because she has more of a Jhin-esque playstyle than more of the, Tristana, Jinx, Xayah hyper carry-esque playstyles. As now we're kind of moving into secondary ban phase where a lot of the free blind picks are going to be pulled away. I would have suspected that Mad Lions might pinch the jungle pool a little bit more to make sure that Shadow gets a favorable matchup, but with something as powerful as Lee Sin, he's probably feeling very confident with the jungle options that are left available to Selfmade, depending on where he wants to try to attack.
And I like that they banned away the Zac as well. Obviously, a flex pick in the hands of Fnatic. We've seen them get very creative with it in the past. This ban feels like it's targeted at Bwipo, something that he feels safe blind picking, as you mentioned earlier. And Shadow getting Lee Sin, something I'm always happy to see. This man is an incredible Lee Sin player. He had a masterful performance against G2 across so many different champions, but that doesn't mean that his Lee Sin, in my opinion, isn't still his #1. And Fnatic, banning away the Rakan themselves. That is respect to Kaiser, because Hylissang, I think right now, is the undisputed Rakan king, but even he doesn't want to mess with Kaiser after what he saw last week.
And Kaiser has been one of the rising stars on Mad Lion's roster. I know we keep kind of grouping them all up together and call them these incredible rookies as a Zilean probably getting locked in for Kaiser's hands. But Kaiser and Karze especially, like, Kaiser is his own man. He's made these crazy plays. He's a great initiator. He has great map sense. How he teams up with Shadow, that talked about it on the analyst desk. We'll be sure to track it in game. For me, he's the third best support in the league right now.
And I'm wondering, Frostgren, if we see a Zilean mid. Now, it has been a long time, but if you just don't want to lane, Zilean clears the wave and walks away. Also, unlike support Zilean, mid lane Zilean can heal your Aphelios back to full life instantaneously. But we'll hold that thought. We'll see. We'll find out where it ends up going. In the meantime, it has been the Rek'Sai locked in up against Shadow. Now, Rek'Sai obviously early game considered, pretty solid in the 1v1 duels because you can unburrow to cancel the Q, but late game, Lee Sin's got the edge because the kick is just so valuable. But the last pick is going to be Blippos. And I like the hover, but we're not going to get the exciting, thrilling potential Sylas top. We're getting to Maokai. We're right back to Lords of Dogtown here on the top side of the map for the Maokai Ornn Showdown.
Oh, I'm so excited. Now, you could still flex the Ornn to the mid lane. Humanoid in his last series did show that he will play the tanks, and you could try to get, we're not going to do it, you could try to get a scaling pick to just punish the fact that Maokai's there like, nah, fine, noodle fight, top side, it's all good.
Frostgren, I was so excited for Zilean mid, a phrase I thought I would never say, but Humanoid Zoe is good. If I had to pick a champion for Humanoid to play every game, it probably would be his Zoe. But I'm not sold on the Zilean Aphelios bot lane combo.
Why? Zilean really thrives when he gets to be really far forward and push in the lane. Aphelios has a lot of natural push into him. Now, obviously, you're playing around the death sentence, so that kind of be the make or break here. Senna also very good at pushing herself with the Q. So you can match priority there, and I think it's just about if Karze and Kaiser can avoid Hilly's gank setup as well as the death sentence. If so, then Zilean should actually be in a great position to start flinging bombs at them.
And look, I see the combo too, where you get the Gravitum, you get the Snare, you get the double bomb. That CC is beautiful. But that's the thing that you mentioned. Hylissang needs to hit one hook, one good, well-timed hook, and this lane phase just instantly ends, and that's my big fear. That is high-stakes bot lane play. So while you and me were like, all right, Analyst Desk, you talked about bot lane, we're going to shift our attention top, because this is where the real action is going to be happening. We're going to give AD credit on this one, but I don't think anything's happening on the top side of the map. That's Ornn versus Maokai, but bot lane is set to be super explosive as we get ready for this game. I'm going to be honest, I just talked for probably a minute straight before we came into game. I'm amped up. I am fired up. I am so full of caffeine and love for League of Legends right now, I can't be stopped. But I'm going to take a back seat for a second on my AK Racing chair. Haha. Got it. And toss it over to you. Where should we be looking? What are you excited about?
What are you trying to plug in right now that you need me to cover for? No, I know that you just you set up, you're like, it's going to be about bot lane. The analyst desk was like, it's going to be about bot lane. Guys, I actually don't think it's going to be about bot lane. I'm pretty sure it's going to be about the top side of the map and how these junglers are going to interact. A, because Selfmade is not messing around. He is the Hail of Blades Rek'Sai. Get this Conqueror out of here. He is here to kill some people. Make sure you can get that Q off multiple times. And Maokai actually has great gank setup. We're using his W because he's against an Ornn. I think it's kind of be who gets to the wave first, where the junglers are, and if you get the mid priority or get the wave priority, you can start cutting down into river, maybe even cheat towards the mid lane. I think Zoe and Azir both have small windows where you can try to look for gank access to them, especially on champions as mobile as Lee Sin and Rek'Sai. Going to give the slight edge early to Rek'Sai there, and Hilly also has teleport, so he's not only running it on his Zilean, he's now also running it on his Thresh support.
That's commitment. And I'm actually very curious to see what farming Thresh buys for items. Tahm Kench is a very clear Sunfire cape, get as tanky as possible as fast as you can. What does a farming Thresh buy in the early game? Have to keep our eyes on that one. And for now, you're right, bot lane not going to be crazy explosive. Even with Fnatic stepping towards the front of the lane at the start there, they're not trading too aggressively. Football, on the other hand, clearly has plans in the wet noodle fight, because before anyone has items, there is, as you said, actually a decent amount of kill pressure in the 1v1.
And it's the refillable pot start for Orome on the Ornn there, trying to compete with Maokai's innate build sustain with his passive on the, what is it called, Sap Magic? Draining Sap Magic? BS passive? I don't know what the shorthand is for these. Sorry.
The Healy touch. We call it the Healy touch, Frost.
Yeah, that's what I call it. No. it's ridiculously hard to get him. I don't know. Draco save me. It's hard to get him out of the way.
Yeah, it's hard to bully Maokai out, and you're right. And especially for an Ornn who wants to poke, who, while he does have solid all-in damage, he's not going to 100-0 a tank without ult and a jungler there. So when it comes to sustaining the lane phase, Maokai has a really big advantage, at least until Ornn gets Catalyst under his belt.
But now you have Selfmade already peeking his head in, scouting, finding Shadow, and I'm curious again if Selfmade's going to try to be really aggressive.
He's going to have a new stance on jungling. He's going to go, I'm not going to gank. That's the progressive stance. The liberal jungler.
Make jungle great again. If he's going to team up with Whippo in this W and try to see if they can punish this Ornn, because I think that this is actually just a winning matchup for Whippo. Until, like you're saying, the initial itemization comes in, Catalyst for Orome, he gets some of that MR, and then maybe it gets slightly better. But there is kill pressure up here when Maokai can hold people down, and people forget how much damage these tanks can do early. So early TP, trying to keep Orome locked into lane, trying to deny this CS, and Selfmade's also pinging up here, so Fnatic know that Shadow is playing top side of the map, and I think this is the moment. Whippo is looking, never mind. I was gonna say, Whippo is looking juicy, he's looking tasty, high in fiber. They want to try to bait out a gank and possibly turn it into a counter gank for a kill, but nah. Selfmade comes around that corner, makes eyes at Shadow, is like, never mind.
Yeah, and the thing is Ornn's health bar and mana bar are so low that in my mind is like, that's possible, but there's no reason to risk it, right? Because the Lee Sin has more than enough damage with the tower backing him up to kill both of those champions if a dive goes through. I'm sure Fnatic would have killed Orome, it just would not have been worth the price they would have had to pay. So now Selfmade goes back, he's going to get level 4, he and Shadow both very even. I'm ready to see what Shadow can do once he hits level 6. Good for Rek'Sai, not nearly as good as it is for Lee Sin, however. In mid lane, sort of as expected. We said bot lane, we said top lane, these are the points of action. We said mid lane, nothing's going to happen. So far, it's true. Story not going to change here as Nemesis does get a clean slide and glide there out of the mid lane.
I mean, theoretically, something could happen in mid lane. There are windows, but it's usually going to be around that cleanse and around the time that Zoe and Azir get perma-wave clear with big enough mana pools, as well as having access to enough points in their abilities that they can perma-wave clear. So for Zoe, that's level 5. I do want to point out, though, that Hilly and Reckless, using their wave priority, actually punish Shadow by taking bot Scuttle Crab. So while you said that it does feel like the junglers are even, the pressure across map from Fnatic are taking these small incremental advantages, and you can see the CS discrepancy opening up between Selfmade and Shadow as he's just trying to get whatever he can back, which was the Krug camp into the Blast Cone.
And a bit of a risky invade from Shadow. Down an item, Selfmade had just recalled, he had the Challenging Smite as well as the Longsword, but Shadow is going to be able to walk away, is going to be able to come out on top in that, just stealing a single camp. Selfmade still with a decent lead as he'll now clear out his Raptors. He's going to be racing towards that level 6 point, and if we wanted to see kill pressure top lane, surely once Rek'Sai gets level 6, there should be more than enough damage to go top to force Orome out. But, of course, as always, bot lane is still an option right up until Zilean gets level 6, so some flexibility for the side of Fnatic.
Also, really nice ward placement from Shadow. I don't think it caught Selfmade down here, but you can see that the pings come through.
Oh! Flash. That was a clincher. Carzzy, very good flash. Hylissang with the aggressive flash as well. A well-placed hook, and I think a positive trade. Trading fast for flash. Solid overall, but I got very nervous for the half a second that Carzzy was CC'd right before he managed to flash out of that one.
And this is classic Hilly, and also just kind of what I would call the basics of playing bot lane. I think everyone would agree that it's usually best that you trade your flash on support for your flash on your ADC, because your supports usually come with so much added utility, possibly even tank stats. But Fnatic seem to be the team consistently that will make that happen. As he's skirmishing topside. Hit him with the W!
Wait, Booba might have the magic touch ready. He's going to flash forward. That's the W that you talked about, but now here comes the call of Forge God. Where's the Ram going to go? First blood coming through for Orome. What did we say, Frosker? We talked about Boobo. He's going to be so much stronger, but no, Orome's not taking shit from anybody. Look at that.
Hit him with the Ram. W on me again, I dare you. Yeah, so that was a lot burned. The flashes came through. Sorry, I was supposed to be glass half full right there. I could just think that's funny. I'm assuming Orome and Comms is like, yeah, gank me again. Let's go.
I'm pumped for him. That was, I mean, well played by Rome. Bwipo way too over-aggressive. He thought the magic touch was going to take him give him way more health. Selfmade was still only level 5.
I think that was
laughing straight to the bank.
That was the desync there. The fact that Selfmade wasn't quite there on time, that Bwipo had played some trades. You know, we didn't really get to see what happened, but obviously was much lower health and was almost kind of forced to react when he had to and not necessarily wait for Selfmade's setup there. And now with the Catalyst complete, we talked about how Maokai was an unmovable object. Ornn is now an unmovable object into this matchup. And now the wet noodle fight truly begins, which means I think more focus on mid lane.
Oh, excellent play. Humanoid not to flash away, but it's a stolen ignite. Selfmade now coming over the wall, still only level 5. Shadow. Ooh, also going to match. But Frosker, and you talked about top lane, and I do have to give some credit here, because Rome played a great series last week, so people might be wondering why we were kind of so favorably in the Bwipo camp. Now, Bwipo stats, you can see, during the regular season are fantastic. Always winning at CSD, always active in kills, has a huge portion of his team's damage stats. But when we shift over to Orome was the weak side top laner and some pretty weak performances as well. Consistently behind in CS, not a big part of the damage, not very active early game in the kills, but what we saw last week and what we saw here in this early game is a huge step up in that individual performance.
I mean, to be fair to him, and to be fair to Bwipo, however, it was tank v tank matchup. So yes, credit where credit is due. In the 2v1, soft 2v1 is what we're going to call it. Orome did make the outplay, killed Bwipo with the ultimate and got the first blood. But in the games against G2, Orome, when he's in the tank matchups and he's not pressured, he does fine. But when he is fighting more of the bruisers, more of the fighters like the Aatroxes, he was punished quite severely. And I expect that to be the change of a strategy for Fnatic if they lose this game here. I would expect, like, game 2 of Fnatic coming in 0-1 to Mad Lions, like, get Bwipo carry, let's go.
You'd have to respect it. And while we've been talking a lot about the top side of the map, top side has been the focus and the herald, in fact, for both sides. Bwipo getting aggressive, going for this play, but the knockup is there and Shadow's over the wall. Still only level 5 for Shadow, however. Bwipo knocking him back. Magic Touch going to heal him up nice and good. And there it is. A little bit of a revenge kill as Selfmade's going to grab that one.
Also interesting that Selfmade was picking up the kill. I don't think he needed really to flash there and grab it. I think that was pretty certain Fnatic's kill there. So obviously funneling the gold onto the Rek'Sai, who's now has the complete Warriors enchantment versus Senna. Maybe not my pick, but we'll see how that works out.
Could argue limited window of opportunity to maximize on Rek'Sai value. I would argue, I think, as would you, that I would rather see the gold on the carry. But maybe they're like, hey, you get souls, Reckless. It's a good deal for everybody.
It's also, Reckless's itemization is, I mean, not comparatively to Rek'Sai, but just in general on the Senna, is quite inexpensive for her power windows, because she doesn't go for the hyper-expensive Infinity Edge builds. But not having Flash on Rek'Sai, when that's her primary setup tool, you're then hyper-reliant on either ganking for a Destiny that connects, or actually ganking for the Maokai. So that's, I think it just slows down what Fnatic want to attack the map with, not having Flash. And that's kind of the bigger loss for me.
And we've heard from Mad Lions, specifically Peter Dunn, about how in the past, playing with a Zoe mid, oftentimes Mad Lions very much do focus on limiting that Rek'Sai's ability to flash, because without flash, Zoe can kind of just have a heyday in the mid lane. She can walk up, she can get aggressive. The only thing she has to be scared of is the Stream of Shuffle, because Rek'Sai is so telegraphed in any approach. She has to walk into you to get a knock-up without flash, and that's just not ideal against a champion as slippery as Zoe.
Yeah, and since Humanoid doesn't have access to his flash right now, he does have to be respectful. Like you're saying, he can't be that far forward. Although he's just going to face check into Selfmade here. That was the most confident GLP I've ever seen.
He's got Kaiser there. He says, you have your finger on that R key ready, buddy. It's actually genius. Sorry, just for the memes, though, think about it. Humanoid, we criticized him a lot for isolated deaths. Kaiser can revive Humanoid. That's especially big brain, Frosker.
The thing is that on Zoe, Humanoid shouldn't... Okay, so here's the thing. Yes, Humanoid does tend to die isolated. I'll hold it, though, because here comes the gank crew, okay? They're just walking by, just giving them a wave. Humanoid likes to play with pressure, and he likes to play with pressure to kill people. He doesn't like to just sit on the pressure that he has on the side lane, which is why oftentimes it feels like Humanoid's looking for those crazy, like, 2v1 outplays, the 1v1 tower dives.
Oh, that's a knockback, though. Humanoid without a flash is now just trying to waddle his way out to safety. That's a very slow Rek'Sai. Can't find the knockup quite yet, but now the ulti is going to guarantee the land. Shadow, though, with the kick back. Here comes the Reckless ult to save the day. Selfmade onto the tower. Not going to work out for him in the end. Well played by the side of Mad to turn it into a 1-for-1.
Yeah, 1-for-1 trade. Again, Humanoid without the flash. That was kind of the one window that you had. The Clin's just about to come off of cooldown there, so Fnatic rightfully punishing where they had it. And still, again, a very quiet bot lane. We haven't really seen either of these bot laners participating with the kills outside of the Reckless ultimate that went through. Back to Humanoid. Humanoid on Zoe.
Ult that thought. There's a hook. There's a bit of damage on Carzzy. We might get an ult out, but no. It's going to be the barrier as well as the heal. Kaiser and Carzzy both burning their secondary sums.
He can't play side lane as confidently, so if he's grouped up with his team as primary wave clear or being used as the pick option to try to find long-range bubbles, that's less Humanoid dying on side lane. And you know what? I respect a player that tries to play at max limitations. Like, Humanoid goes for the crazy play, so eventually it's not that crazy anymore.
And I think in that case, when you look back at that replay, it seems to me at least that Humanoid may have been going for the Sleepy Trouble Bubble onto Nemesis, hoping to help Lee Sin find that kill, but of course by committing there, he does line up the knockup for Rek'Sai and guarantee his own death. But now, finally, the first tower going to go down. Went from a very kind of dead even game now to a 1k gold lead for Fnatic. 2-2 the kill score. Cloud Drake and the tower, really the big advantages for Fnatic at this point in the game.
Yeah, so I feel that the two players who are having the least fun time right now are actually the junglers, because they're looking around at their map like, you know, I can try to force a gank here, but it's probably not going to feel great either way. Both teams are just doing the handshake. We traded map a couple of times, objectives.
Yeah, mid laners now splitting off into side. It looks like Hylissang and Reckless are going to take up home in mid lane. Makes sense if you're Senna, trying to gather as many souls as possible. Matt are going to take this opportunity to start up the Infernal.
And Fnatic seem fine and willing to trade this for priority and pressure into the mid lane. Now that they have eyes about where Mad Lions are, they're going to feel super confident to push up, like you said, parking Reckless and Hilly there, especially whenever you have Death Sentence. One of the bad things, though, is that Senna is still a relatively slow pusher comparatively to other ADCs. Nice thing is that with Death Sentence, however, she can be so much braver pushing forward down these lanes as long as Thresh is positioned like that.
Of course, the Bomby Cinder plus the Flay, it means that Hylissang can offer some wave clear. I don't like it as much as I like having the Zillion there for the additional wave clear, but Fnatic not completely without wave clear in this mid lane duo thus far. Checking in on top lane, Frostguard. It remains the wet noodle fight. Sunfire Cape is coming in first for the Maokai. Not as worried about the individual lane matchup, just wants the extra wave clear and the extra armor up against the likes of Carzzy and Shadow. While Arome very close to the Abyssal Mask and should at this point just be completely unkillable. We're just looking at top lane for TPs and wave control.
Yeah, Shadow right now trying to set up a pick, doesn't connect, but you're going to see this type of position set up from Mad Lions at this stage in the game where you're using Lee Sin to look for these really deep flanking opportunities. Really good vision control, however, from Fnatic, not just covering Bwipo on the top side of the map. That's 3-4 wards scattered throughout top side jungle, but also on bot side to cover potential flanks, catching them out. And right now, it feels like Fnatic have really just stalled Mad Lions out.
Not a bad position to be in. As mentioned before, Aphelios going to scale very hard, but the Senna as well with enough souls becomes, like you said, Jhin-esque. Not very interactive as an AD carry, not going to fire out those rapid-fire auto attacks, but is just going to increase in strength the longer and longer we go, especially alongside the likes of the Nazir, the true AP hyper carry alongside Corki.
So one of the problems that they're going to run into, though, is trying to crack these mid lane towers for both teams, which is why this Herald is going to be so much more important. I'm curious how bold Fnatic are going to feel to try to start this one up, instead of using maybe some of their vision control to set up a pick with Death Sentence. So, actually looks like we're just going to go toe-to-toe, set the line of scrimmage, and see who checks blind into what CC. Shadows and Pit.
Shadows stepping forward. First item has now been completed from Nemesis. He's going to do a lot of damage here. They're trying to zone away. Bwipo's ult is out, and they've already waited for it. Arome's going for the setup on the backside. Ornhorn comes through, but it's going to be a whiff. Not the field goal that they were looking for. Carzzy now running forward. Big ulti coming in from Humanoid, but he manages to go back. Hylissang holding the enemy backline, trying to buy a bit more time. Shield coming in from Reckless. Hylissang now stepping forward, but he has to be careful because that's the Herald over to Mad Fnatic. Ooh, committing too much to make that happen. Mad just gets to swoop in and take the Herald.
Yeah, and the team that starts the Herald is at the disadvantage because they're fighting on two sides, the Herald side and Mad Lions side. They take a lot of damage. They're eventually forced off of it. Mad Lions, hey guys, thanks for the leash. Pick it up onto Shadow. And now can either choose to break this top tower, potentially free up this Ornn, allow him more access to roam around, start using that utility, or put it into the mid lane and give them more access to side.
Bwipo getting a little bit frisky here, but Arome obviously without any mana can't really do much of anything in Shadow. While he's confident, he sees that Sunfire Cape, he knows he cannot burst that Maokai down. So they will back off. The process is interesting because if you had told me at the start of playoffs, this is what game 1 of Fnatic Mad Lions had looked like, I probably would not have believed you that it would be kind of this close and this controlled from both sides. I also wouldn't have believed that they beat G2, but here we are. It's a crazy world we live in.
And it was kind of a question of, were Mad Lions just matching G2? We heard Kaiser in his interview that they just weren't afraid to go toe-to-toe with them, that going in, Mac had told them that they just want to play their style, and they'll go blow for blow with G2, and G2 are a naturally very scrappy, skirmish-heavy team, and while Mad Lions have kind of made their bread and butter over the course of the regular split, relying on team fights, they aren't necessarily the same level of brawlers, so this does feel like a much slower-paced game than I think people really expected, but it still feels like it's been a lot in control by Fnatic. And so Mad Lions haven't really had to force to fight because Fnatic haven't pushed hard on them.
And we'll see where Fnatic want to push. The Herald felt like maybe just a bit of testing from the side of Fnatic. Obviously a bit over-aggressive. Obviously a loss on their side to give up that Herald. But not losing anything more than that. And we'll see if Fnatic want to try to force another fight or force another objective and what Mad can do to respond. Of course, first items coming out now across the board. So we are slowly ramping into that mid to late game stage.
Yeah, and right now we're just waiting for pushing, ping-ponging farm back and forth while we set up for the incoming Mountain Dragon spawning in 35 minutes. Again, it's going to be easier for Fnatic to wrestle back mid lane priority, because again, that safety of the death sentence as well as the advantage of top tower being down. You can see Whippo shove the way forward. It gives him this massive window since there's no tower to roam down, get to his team first. He's now looking for the flank.
Carzzy is absolutely fearless. He has Zillion ult, so he's just going to go in straight into the enemy team. Problem is, no one else is around. He doesn't have a Thresh Lantern, so bye-bye Carzzy. Bit over-aggressive there from the Mad Lions AD carry. A bit too much confidence after that G2 series. The fight's going to continue, but not a whole lot of consequence will happen. Humanoid will not connect on the Paddle Star, and that was bad. Crosscurrent.
And maybe that answers the question of, was it Mad Lions that were just matching what G2 were doing? G2 were there, so Mad Lions showed up, or Mad Lions really revealing their true colors of, hey, we're down to scrap, we're down to tango. Carzzy, like you said, stepped way too far forward, was really feeling himself, lost track of where the CC was, and got punished rightfully for it. And in response, Fnatic get everything across the map. Mid, Drake, and healthy damage onto bot tower.
And sadly, their Herald not going to be active while the tower plates are up. In the meantime, Selfmade grabbing second dragon in the game. That is bad. Carzzy's going to regret that one. You can kind of see the perfect play in his mind, I think, where the entire team's there. He gets to revive as the rest of his team engages and they can come out on top. But I'm not sure that was very realistic.
I mean, you saw the Flay went down, and technically the death sentence doesn't connect, so the two big pieces of CC from the guy in front of him, Thresh, Carzzy's like, didn't hit me with him, and then, of course, Maokai and Rek'Sai show up from the flanks, so that would be the issue.
Now, maybe thinking they had the 3v3 there. I respect that Carzzy's trying to maximize the value of Zillion ult, but at the end of the day, that was a play that they will look back on and know that it's potentially the play that puts them in too big of a deficit to come back from. Because Fnatic is not a team that lets go of leads easily. Now 2K, almost 3K in the lead 20 minutes in. As you said, they were dictating control earlier. They made a small slip-up at Rift Herald. Carzzy made a big slip-up, or an oopsie, as I like to call it, in the mid lane there. That was rough.
And now the issue is that this is really going to dictate the pressure across the map, because again, it was already easier for Fnatic to contest mid lane priority between the Azir and the Aphelios Thresh combination. Excuse me, Senna Thresh combination. Aphelios has to stand so much further back the lane because he doesn't have the same safety, so he has to wait for the wave to bounce into him, which means that Fnatic are always going to get to the play setup, the rotation first. And when you have so much pick and so much CC in the Thresh and in the Maokai, and whenever Rek'Sai has the flash up, getting first to those rotations is going to be super punishing against a team as inexperienced as Mad Lions in some of these more intense situations. So that's kind of the next step up of the game. Losing mid, they've lost now the pressure game, at least on the top side of the map.
And even after their win against G2, you still have to wonder how they're going to handle those high-intensity situations. Like this one right here, unstoppable for Arome comes out, but it might be too little too late as Reckless and Hillsang are now on the chase. More than enough CC here. Glacial Augment going to proc the slow. Good sidestep there. Both pieces of CC still unstoppable. Romeo though going to get hooked back, trying to make his way out of this one. Kaiser does have ultimate available, is going to speed him out to safety. Good on Arome, dodging both the hook as well as the snare from Reckless. Keeps him alive long enough for Kaiser to bail him out. I
mean, even if they had hit him, I think Orange just a little bit too tanky at this situation, but you are correct that it was really nice blue suede shoes. He did have some sweet sidesteps, and I think Fnatic are now going to change up their style as Nemesis grabs Humanoid,
not afraid to just run face first into that Zoe. All those cooldowns are gone. That's going to be Zoe's actual flash taken away, but Nemesis is out of cooldowns. There goes the ulti from Reckless, the kick back. Shadow missing the follow-up. A rare misstep from the Mad Lions jungler. The knockup comes through. Easy follow-up there. You cannot afford to make mistakes like that against a team like Fnatic.
And that was the difference between trading and potentially getting out with your life and just giving away a free Baron and potentially the first game. Suddenly, Mad Lions just collapse at multiple points across the map.
When you show me the G2 series, I tell you Mad's not a team of rookies. But you show me small mistakes like that, and it comes back to you. They do still have to prove more. Obviously, beating G2 is fantastic, but if you want to stand at the top of Europe, you have to execute on these plays. When someone gets aggressive, you have to be able to fight back. You have to hit your skill shots, and it just does not happen here for Mad.
And the cooler thing here is that this is Nemesis versus Humanoid. These are the two Mad Lion mid laners going toe-to-toe. These guys have faced so many times. They were in the competition for who was truly going to be like that next rising star of the mid lane. Was it going to be Nemesis? Was it going to be Humanoid? And it feels like Nemesis had already eclipsed Humanoid in my mind, but then with that 1v1 kill, that pick off into the side lane, he was just reminding everyone. It wasn't even a competition to begin with, guys.
And that's something we don't see in the Zoe Azir matchup a whole ton, is that when she commits forward on the portal jump, the Azir just goes, I'm in. I'm rushing you. I know where you're reappearing. I am full committing, and I will take this all in. But well played by Nemesis, and now we also get to see part of the reason why Fnatic love this Senna so much. It's the good use of that ultimate from Reckless.
And when you're against a team that has Humanoid on it, you know he does like to play very aggressive in those side lanes. I think at that point he was actually just trying to clear farm, but we've seen Humanoid a number of times look for those outplays, look for those kills. The Senna makes a lot of sense. It worked against Origin. It's now probably going to continue to work against Mad Lions, and eventually someone's going to have to ask the question, do we deny this from Fnatic? Because that global ultimate, semi-global, global ultimate is really punishing. It just allows you to win matchups cross map. Even if it wasn't the difference maker there, it has been in the past.
And the flexibility of Fnatic, that they are a team that is happy to play through any lane when given the opportunity. Bot lane just left on the wayside in this current meta, as the Senna has freed up the other lanes to play a bit more aggressive. And now we see Fnatic continuing to pull ahead. That's just a wet noodle fight. I'm not going to cast it until there's any actual kill pressure. But 6K gold lead for Fnatic at this point in the game, alongside the double drakes. It feels like it would take a massive throw for them to lose out on this one, because there's too much gold. The scaling with the Azir already having a death cap, it's nigh impossible for Mad to come back at this point.
So let's check in on some of the itemization that we've seen. We were asking what Hilly was going to build on the Feasting Thresh. He went for the Dead Man's Plate and the Sunflower. Sunflower obviously for cost effectiveness, especially the itemization against the opponent he's across from. But then going for the Dead Man's Plate to kind of work in tandem with the roaming potential that Hilly likes to have.
I thought the ultimate's going to come back to them, selling all their damage onto Blippo. The Lantern alongside the healing coming in, piercing light. Does mean that they're not going to be able to finish off a single kill, and it does mean that Azir is now uncontested on the top side tower. Zoe can poke, but she can't commit for the all-in. So Nemesis is going to open up that inhibitor and walk away.
And also against the Baron, she's really struggling to siege down those minions because she doesn't have flash, and if she doesn't have backup, she's also under threat that Nemesis could look for the dive if he spots that the other 4 members of Mad Lions are busy fighting cross-map from him. So Humanoid just kind of had to watch his base get decimated there, couldn't do anything without backup.
It's a difficult situation because the stakes just raise when your opponent has a Baron. Single mistake turns into guaranteed inhibitor tower instead of just being maybe one tower, maybe one small objective. When you're this late in the game, everything is more high stakes, and Mad are paying the price for small moments of indecision, for small moments of overcommittal onto a now pretty much officially unkillable Maokai, at least when the team is around.
Now, something that can be said, though, is that we did see Mad Lions go 5 games with G2, so while this one looks like it's going to be the loss, we expect that Fnatic should be able to cleanly close it out from the tape that we have. We know that Mad Lions are able to bounce back from these situations. Again, Kaiser in his interview said that they really have nothing to lose. They just have to, they've already proven that they're a good team. No one's really expecting them to win the split, so it alleviates a lot of that pressure, and they showed that in the G2 series that they can go the distance, that they have the endurance, and they can find the mental reset.
And that's something that we don't usually get to say about rookie teams, right? Usually it's, hey, you lose one game against the higher seed, the perceived top team. Usually we kind of expect these teams to struggle, to suffer, not always to fall apart, but there's usually some change in performance when an enemy team is winning, and it's partly due to single mistakes from individual players. But Mad have earned that faith. They've earned that credibility with their victory over G2. So something to look forward to is how they adapt in the next game. What we see change in this draft if they take the Senate away. And what else they have up their sleeve. Because this feels very standard Mad Lions to me, but knowing their coaching staff, I feel like there's got to be some spicy picks that they have not shown us quite yet.
Yeah, it does feel very standard. Maybe the Zillion, kind of the only strange thing here, or at least out of the ordinary from Mad Lions. We've, of course, already seen Fnatic play it in the playoffs. As this does feel like a little bit of a slow chokehold from Fnatic right now, as they're just kind of suffocating Mad Lions out of the map. It does mean that there's a little bit of time here for Mad Lions to dig deep, try to find that miracle turn. What that would look like is, again, you need Shadow to find some sort of deep flank, get a necessary target, preferably someone like Nemesis, and hopefully back kick him into your team and just delete him.
Yeah, taking Nemesis out of the fight makes everything significantly easier because Rek'Sai's damage, while solid, falls off a lot. She's definitely not going to be able to one-shot Carzzy unless Carzzy is severely mispositioning. Almost all the sustained damage is actually Azir at this stage of the game.
Is Hilly building a Wit's End?
My god, yes he is. Oh boy. Do you remember Wit's End Sunfire Cape? Do you remember when it was OP? That was my jam back in top lane. It's coming back for Thresh. That's a lot of damage, Frost. He's
playing so much side lane support right now. This is what he does. He gets fed, like, reckless, here comes the airplane. Like, yeah, open your mouth, Hilly. Like, spoon feeds him all of this gold. And then no matter what champion he has, he builds. He's got the passive movement speed from Deadman's plate. He is so tanky between the armor of Sunfire and Deadman's. And then now he has the Wit's End. He can push waves pretty effectively because he can hit so quickly and then just burn them with the fire. And even if you catch him, you can't kill him.
Oh, flank on mid lane. Whippo now going in. He's going straight onto Kaiser. He just wants to isolate the Zillion. The ulti now forced out, and that means Carzzy has to run for the hills. Selfmade trying to make his way in, but the kickback's coming through. Still, Whippo's right on top of Carzzy. Carzzy's desperately trying to live. He's got a lot of life steal, but I don't think it's going to be enough. He's getting burned down, and there it is. Selfmade going to find the kill. Nemesis swoops in and takes down Humanoid once again. Selfmade now on the chase, and Fnatic are just going to be able to barrel into the base of the Mad Lions.
And it feels like Fnatic just sucker punched Mad Lions, just took the wind all out of their sails, at least for game one, and remind everyone,
we have emotes!
Oh no, we truly are the heavyweights of playoffs. Spam the emotes, guys. Put the salt in the wound.
I forgot, I did not know. Shout out to Selfmade for that one. Sorry, Frostgreen, you had a great point ready. I hadn't seen it before. It was a special time seeing the Pengu cheering.
It's fun.
Fnatic.
Take your moment.
There you go. Fnatic closing out game one with confidence. Very slow, controlled in the early game, but once Fnatic found that big lead, there was no coming back for the Mad Lions. Adaptation in game two is going to be the name of the game as we close this first one out with a Fnatic win and a dabbing Pengu. My god, yes, I've waited for so long.
How does it taste, Ray Ghost?
So good.
That's what it's going to taste like for Fnatic right now. Felt like they weren't pressured at all. There was a bit